And as you can see, we're at the first boss, and we're just going to dive right on in. He does have 2 hounds that do not have an aggro table, so if you're a tank, don't even try to hold their aggro. The boss, though, does have an aggro table, but he will drop aggro quite frequently, so it's good to keep your taunt up and ready. Basically, he is easy to kite around the room and keep away.
Yeah, as you can see, that little red mark on the ground, that buffs his hounds. So what you're going to want to do is keep the hounds outside of that at all times. If they're inside of it, they do increased damage and attack speed. The hounds are not CCable, however you can slow them. So pretty much you can just kite the hounds around and work on the boss, or work on killing the hounds one at a time.
And as you can see, I am kiting the boss around, taking less damage, so giving our healer less to heal me. Since I am a ranged tank, I just decided to go that route.
Yeah, healing this fight is probably one of the hardest fights to heal in the entire Flashpoint. You have to basically manage everybody in the group and keep tabs on everybody. This is probably the only fight you have to do that in. Again, because the hounds don't have an aggro table and you can't really tank them. They tend to run around, so you have to watch your own health because you can pull them just by healing.
So as you can see, we decided to down the hounds first versus taking out the boss. You can take out the boss first, but it's a little bit harder to keep the hounds and the boss separate. So we decided to just kill the hounds first, and I can just kite the boss around all day long, no problem. As you can see, both hounds are down at this point, and we are just all on the boss. At this point, you don't really have to worry about his reticle on the ground. We did decide to keep out of it just a little bit, though. We weren't sure fully of the mechanics at this time. This was only our second run. We did a few subsequent runs and figured out the rest of the mechanics.
Now, I have to ask, I know we can't CC any of the ads or the boss in this one, but does your taunt work for the 6 seconds?
My taunt does work for the boss. I did not try it on the ads since we just decided to kill them, so I don't think that it'll work on the ads very well. I think it's much more effective to do the boss instead of letting the boss going around and hitting the DPS or healer, which will do a lot more damage to them than the hounds will.
Very good.
Yeah, and if you're tanking the main boss, you definitely don't want to tank or taunt the ads as well, because if you have all of them on you, they'll be inside of that little buff reticle.
As you can see, there he goes down. This is worth noting that this is the first Flashpoint where you get loot from the chest versus on the boss, so just be aware of that and don't leave anything behind. And that's a rather nice consular robe.
Yep, it was a very nice upgrade.
So now we're just going to move on and clear out some more trash. An important thing to note is that they do make use of the active objects again. So you have barrels that can explode, things that can freeze, you guys jumping out at you when you shoot things. So it's a very active Flashpoint with lots of different things and lots of different ways. It's just showing as we go through these videos, the Flashpoints are becoming more and more intensive, which it's a very nice ramp up. I never felt that it was a walkthrough ever. We were always had the right amount of difficulty for the correct Flashpoint level.
Yeah, and another thing that was nice is as you level up and you acquire new skills and new abilities, the higher the Flashpoints, I've noticed that you can. It actually requires you to use those new abilities as you've earned them. The abilities that require to get through the Flashpoint here required many more abilities than would have required from Aethys and from the Hammer.
So you normally want to crowd control one of these because these guns do hit rather hard. As you can see, our DPS is taking a few pulses. We tried to crowd control the one on the left, but our AoE knocked it out a few times, and we just decided to just tank them all. There it is, crowd controlled, and I believe
that's the smuggler crowd control.
We did manage to leave it up, crowd controlled, but originally we had knocked it out, so.
Yes, these can be force lifted through a counselor's crowd control, or the Oakley, our smuggler, has a robot stun that only works on mechanical objects.
And it worked out really well for this Flashpoint. I don't know how guns carry credits. So as you can see, I am showcasing my mount here that I got for this. I got it at level 25. They cost 40,000 for the skill to train in, and the speeder itself was 8,000. I picked the nice green one. Or mine was actually 8250. The normal price is 8,000. But for those of you that got collector's editions or deluxe editions that include the speeders, you won't have to worry about buying one if you don't want to. Though the more expensive one is definitely the skill train.
Yeah, as you can see, I went with the riding lawnmower for my choice.
Cutting up the grass on the floor of the metal ship.
Yep, somebody has to do it.
So as you can see, they make generous use of the mini bosses around the area. So we're constantly fighting those and dealing with those.
Yeah, definitely a lot of dynamic fights where you go in expecting to fight one boss, one mob, and then a door opens up and more come in. So it's what BioWare has been promising, where more dynamic, active fights where you have to think on your toes, CC, just be ready for anything.
Alright, in this room on the left, or sorry, the right, where we're going here, there is a node here for slicing, which is basically, it activates the platform, which gives us a considerable shortcut.
If you weren't going to be taking this, you'd have to continue past these mobs straight up the platform you can see straight ahead through that door with the green Pokeball on it.
And the elevator takes, I believe it was either 120 or 150 slicing.
So we are up now.
Yeah, and it really is a considerable shortcut.
The main thing to watch out here is these mini bosses have a knockback, and if you are not careful, they will knock you off the edge. That can hurt and cost you the time to get him back up, especially if you had to run around. There's an example of how far it can knock you off, and if I was right next to the side, it would have knocked us off.
Not to mention if you had the unfortunate, privilege of being knocked off into a mob below, you'd then have aggro from that group as well.
Yeah, so it's definitely something to be aware of. You do also want to make sure that you're watching the mob that's on my direct left right now. It can come in and aggro against you.
Yeah, one thing you'll notice is we left those explosive barrels alone, and you'll see that it's more beneficial for this coming fight than it was for the last fight.
And I'm going to get knocked back into it, and you'll see it a lot better. There it is. And there's the explosive barrels, and we just killed all 3 guys with it.
Yeah, whenever you fight these mini bosses, he likes to summon those 3 little ads.
So just a little bit more smacks from Draf, and Draf almost got knocked off too. So you got to make sure you want to be lined up straight forward and back with the platform, and not be facing your back towards the edge at all when you're fighting those.
Alright, as we continue here, there are 2 turrets up here, but we decided to skip them and cling to the left wall.